Special thanks to John Tartaglia for videoing this so-called Branchville audit.
This audit, and can you speak to it?
Yeah, I mean, we have other housing advocacy groups have. One of the laws that just passed this session is actually determining at a regional level from the state perspective through DOH and EDC what the housing needs are at kind of all levels of income. So
No, I'm talking specifically Ridgefield, that we determine what the housing needs are for the kind of housing that we're going to be looking at, for locations that we're looking at today for, potential affordable housing.
I'm not sure if Ridgefield is done at the local level. The state's just starting that process.
We've got a
now.
rough idea. We have a lot of, what do you want to call them, apartments that aren't counted because they're homes, second stories, basements, wherever, garages, wherever they may be, and they don't tell the assessor. And there's
No,
about
I
200
know
to
that
300
those aren't deed
but we
restricted.
know how many condos we have, how many
Okay,
apartments we
then
have.
part of that, we have a study. I mean, I've done this in other areas. I know what the process is in terms of, you don't just put up buildings like Field of Dreams and they will come.
I hear what you're saying.
So I just want
From
to,
my perspective, and I don't know what desegregate is, but I can tell you that the state right now is beginning to formulate a roundtable to begin looking at fair share. And I don't know how many of you heard about fair share last session and the potential implications for our town.
Yeah, maybe 15,000 units.
1,500.
Well, no, if we go to developers, it's 15,000 units to get
It's
1,500.
1,500, you would need 4,500 units to get to 15 to 30% on affordability.
Well, they're not gonna go 30% of the developers, they'll probably go 10%. If you give
That's
them
a-
the rights, they'll do 10%.
I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, just in the interest of everyone standing around in the heat. We are going to stop at a couple different points.
I
too,
just want
think
to
some of
talk
these
to Bob's point, and whether it's 15,000, 30,000, or 2,000, it's a lot of units for our town.
Yeah, it's,
Okay?
brings us
Let
up
me
by
finish, please.
50% to 100%.
And we haven't built that many units in the last 35, 40 years. It isn't going to happen. It's unrealistic. So this new roundtable is going to be a new version that's going to be coming forward, and I want Ridgefield to be ready. I want Ridgefield to be ready to explain what we're going to do in the future to be able to confront whatever statute gets passed, because that's my gut.
Maybe we should stand up against the statute instead of just
We did.
allowing it. Well, only half of them.
We did.
Well, it's
We
still
have
out
4
there.
reps, 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean,
voted
and
for it.
and honestly, even
Excuse me, I'm Senator Cece
I
Mark.
know you are.
Yep,
And
and
you
I
voted
did, I voted for
Yes.
a look at
Right.
all the details. I did not vote for a statute, I voted for a
To
study.
keep it alive.
Right.
And no, a study because
I stand corrected.
Connecticut
You voted for a
cannot
study.
move
It keeps it
forward
alive.
without.
so
I don't
Instead
want
of voting
this
no.
to go into a discussion about what was done and not. We're looking at Branchville as an area of our community that has never gotten any investment at all. Correct? We haven't seen a nickel put into this area. It's been the forgotten daughter, son, child. And
It's 'cause
what
it's
we need to
Italian.
do- What we need to do is, according to a lot of the landowners, the Iconas, as I said, Joe Chlednik and Nazaros and all the rest of them that have grown up in this area, they are looking for improvements to take place here. And as we continue to grow as a population, and we are, right? Where are all the people going to go? Somewhere else? We're here now, so no one else can come in. The town, if it was that way,
That'd be well thought out.
and that's what we're doing.
What is
We're thinking
desegregate?
this
Right,
out
yeah. I mean,
here. We're
That's what I'm
thinking it out.
Well, I'd
You're
like to
not going
understand-
to see 1,000 units in a year. It isn't going to happen that way. It isn't.
Not
It's
possible.
going to be a very slow progression.
Couldn't happen in 10 years.
Is your role funding? Desegregate Connecticut, is your role funding?
our role is advocating for the state, going back to the DOT, right? We all know the DOT
Right, but do you
putting money
provide
in.
funding
Funding for what? I'm sorry.
for development?
How do
I
we
guess
pay for
I'm
the
worried,
They
I'm
can't fund
confused.
anything,
Okay.
but they can advocate
Where do
for
you-
funding.
So,
You advocate, so where do you get your funding?
We get our funding from community foundations. I mean, we're not developer funded, if that's the question.
You're not funded by developers?
We're not. But what we are is we're
Who
an
are you
advocacy
funded by?
group.
Okay.
We have an annual report on our website that
Okay.
has all of our
Oh,
funding.
thank you.
It's all there.
Okay.
I can assure you, I'm a former tenant organizer. We're not taking real estate developer money. But what we are doing is advocating for local plans like Branchville
Okay.
that are thinking about the future holistically, strategically, compassionately, whatever you want to say. It's not going to happen overnight. Going back to the point of what numbers are we using? There are numbers, of course, that we know cost burden and rent burden in Ridgefield and elsewhere. We know the housing stock that is needed for the growing population, as Rudy mentioned, and that's what we're trying to plan for. We're not coming down saying y'all got to do X, Y, and Z. It's you have done a plan, and for decades have been talking about this community, and at least some of the roadblocks are the state's not doing enough fast enough to really get this kind of opportunity done. So the fact that the local plan is in place, it's got to evolve, it's updates, circumstances change, of course. But it's a good plan. We think it's a great idea, locally driven plan, that we want to support that by helping the state put some funding together for these kinds of services.
So I know we want to get started.
We do, actually. If we can,
So-
we're going to
so-
stop
so-
next,
so
then like 10 minutes across the street.
Something for you to consider and think about to explain the next stop would be, you call yourselves Desegregate Connecticut. What is segregated about Ridgefield? Because I talked to our director or chairman of planning and zoning. We don't have any segregated zoning laws. So what is it that is about Ridgefield that's segregated?
I'm happy to answer that question on down the trail.
Can I just make one quick administrative announcement? I'm sure Mr. Tartaglia will appreciate this the most. This is not a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We noticed this meeting in case 5 of our members show up. It's their meeting.
Yep.
For FOI purposes.
Yep.
If 5 of us were here, then it would be right for us to file minutes and keep
And it's
a
not
record.
a government meeting, right?
There's
not a government
it's,
meeting.
It's not. I can't speak for the Board of Selectmen.
Not any
but
state or federal
Planning and
government or
Zoning
local
Commission.
government.
We only have 3 people here, no quorum, so that meeting is canceled. There won't be minutes.
So it's just a few guys from Simsbury. That's
All right, so let's move. All right, so folks, just want to get a quick conclusion here. First of all, I just want to say thanks to Rudy for organizing this part of it. Just want to thank you so much for hosting this and having a conversation. So just a couple of things. If you have a red vest, that is a Ridgefield vest. If you have a, I guess, gray vest, we'll call this, that's a Desegregate vest. So pass that our way. Appreciate it. If you have a clipboard, I think some folks have grabbed them already. In terms of the next phase of this, in a couple of weeks, we're actually going to have a Zoom workshop. We're going to invite everybody back. If for whatever reason you didn't sign up formally, we might not have our email address, but if you want to participate in that, please do let us know. Because we usually have a virtual workshop where we go over some of the survey results, have an opportunity to kind of come back when it's not 1,000,000 degrees and sunny to have a conversation about kind of next steps and what needs to happen. So we will send that email out to folks. You might not be captured by that, but hopefully you'll know somebody on the walk that we can get that information out. We haven't scheduled that yet, but tentatively it might be Friday, August 11th, but we'll get that information out. I know Rep. Amy wants to attend that as well, a couple folks that couldn't make it. So please look for that. We have just a quick PowerPoint presentation of questions raised, all that kind of good stuff. We don't have a time to have conversations about everything, obviously, the nature of the walk. So we want to, this is a starting point from our perspective of a dialogue. And frankly, it's a conversation that's going on for a lot longer than a lot of us have been around. So we want to see some progress here. But we're really pleased about what we came together, and thanks for spending some of your Saturday with us. I did have a couple of questions from folks that I think looping in about Desegregate specifically, and I think it's worth talking about this as a group just quickly. You know, our name can be polarized, and we recognize that. Oftentimes, walks like this are good because some of the myth of what we are talking about, we can kind of get over that and get down to the nitty-gritty of some of the nerdy stuff that we're all trying to see. There's a lot more that unites us in these issues than divides us. The name really came out of when our organization started in 2020 during the George Floyd protests that summer, where systemic racism was really a major conversation at the local level, state level, otherwise. So that's absolutely one of our issues. The other two are economic prosperity and environmental sustainability. on a personal branding issue, our name doesn't talk to those two issues enough as well. Honestly, we love the feedback as a coalition. We're always trying to figure out how are we messaging ourselves that we're doing that. So believe me, I hear you. Those are conversations we are having. But I really appreciate even if some of you maybe had some skepticism about us. You know, the pro homes thing is a pretty easy thing to capture onto, and I think a lot of folks here want to get things right, but maybe at a different pace and a different scale. But that's how the conversation happens. That's how we get the local stuff done, the state stuff done. So I really appreciate it sincerely for all you coming out. Anyone that's skeptical about us, hopefully there's a little bit more of a dialogue and you feel like you can work with us on some stuff because we want to work with all of you. That's how this stuff's going to move down the field a little bit. So really, thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to stick around a little bit, have more conversations.
One last quick question
Sure.
for you. Can you tell us what your assessment, initial reaction assessment to your audit here? What are your takeaways?
Yeah, we'll talk more about this when we get a sense of the surveys. So my personal, this is the first time I've been to the Branchville part of Ridgefield. I always think about sort of the town center, but obviously I'm fairly passionate and optimistic about the future of Connecticut and building around our train stations. The future is very much around that. So I think there's a lot of potential here. The plan that we've studied pretty much at length is a good one, and I think there are some good questions brought up about sewage capacity, ridership, all those things are different from 2017. Probably not dramatically different, would be my guess. So my initial observation is, yeah, there's progress being made. I guess they're breaking ground on the second part of this sidewalk next week, which I didn't know. So there's progress being made. It might not be big flashy things, but it's going to improve this area. So I think there's at least some progress finally after a lot of plans.
Yeah, just so people understand, the sidewalks, the new sidewalks we saw are going to continue all the way down to the Wilton line. And there will also be the decorative lanterns like we have on Main Street, all the way up, and then north to the bridge or to the river where it goes under Route 7. And then along 102 that we were on up to Ancona's store. And then that whole intersection will be narrowed down with new signalization, a box of crosswalks, the new bridge will, and that's that project that's going to happen this year. Hopefully they'll be able to get it in this construction
That's
season.
what you did, not what they did, right? That's what you did,
They,
meaning the state and our town, not Desegregate Connecticut.
Right.
They didn't put this
no.
in.
We got some state funding though?
Yeah,
Oh, from Desegregate
received
Connecticut?
$2.2 million from a program called TAP, Transportation Alternative Program, and then the new bridges are under the FLBP, which is the Federal Local Bridge Program. We put that to bed, 4 years ago, I think, and we're still, depot's about complete on design, and then they start.
So Rudy, when we have to expand to 4 lanes here?
No.
So when we have to expand to 4 lanes here,
That's after Pete builds the 700 units.
I'll be there.
okay, when we have to expand to 4 lanes here to cover all the traffic, additional traffic that's going to come with this build out, those sidewalks are going to be in the way of going to 4 lanes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm sorry to.
No.
I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
So we're basically building a sidewalk that might have to be dismantled in the future.
35, 40 years from now.
They could put a building. They could put the buildings over. They go up 50 stories and
So
go
yeah,
over the
I think
highway.
our final observation, which is a truism in general in Connecticut, is these things take time. As much as people kind of freak out that how many units are going to be popped down here, we know it's going to take time. It's going to be gradual. There's planning in place for it.
Expenditures that are going to don't necessarily need to be right? And where's it coming from? It's coming from
That
taxes.
people at Ridgefield have grown up here. Several of the condominium projects would be built or either stopped. And if they did, most of us would build, one of us would build, two of us would build. A lot of people that are here today wouldn't be here. We're going to grow. We can't fight it. I mean, our population growth really has nothing to do with government. People are having babies and getting married, and population is growing. They're going to. You look at the New York metropolitan area and how that population grew out. Stanford used to be in the country. Now it's a city where people are moving out to get. They used to come to Ridgefield. Now they're going north, up into Sherman and those areas. It's amazing, but there's a definite trend over the years. And if you overlay that going forward, you'll get an idea of what we need to prepare for.
And you never answered my question about what's segregated about
So you can look at our zoning atlas. The original impetus for our organization was actually mapping zoning laws. And the 30,000 foot view of it is before 1968 in the Federal Housing, Fair Housing Act. You could legally discriminate racially, blocking folks of Jewish ethnicity, black, whatever it might be, from actually living in a town. Post 1968, of course, that was no longer allowed. Not coincidentally, a lot of zoning laws about large lot requirements, banning multifamily housing, not expanding public transportation, were very much consciously, subconsciously, systemically based on keeping those folks out of a community. So that's kind of the world that we live in Connecticut and across the country. You know, we're not an organization that says any particular person is currently responsible for that. Maybe there are folks that oppose certain things for certain reasons. There are probably a lot of folks that oppose these things for good faith reasons. Those are the folks we try to work with. The folks that have concerns about traffic, school enrollments, tax base, good faith people that are not urban planning people that want to learn how do we balance our growth, how do we keep the pressure off costs and taxes. The answer is doing this kind of stuff. So that's kind of the work that we try to do.
Speaking with Rob. Sure.
Thanks for coming. We'll follow up. Yeah, appreciate it.